Hi, everyone. Welcome to the UFO Hub live stream. So today's guest is going to be Kathryn Andries, and we will be doing some Q&A later on, and make sure that you're logged in under Telegram if you would like to ask the questions yourself. Otherwise, you can simply watch this going on live now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So Kathryn, I've known Kathryn for quite a long time. She's an author, teacher, and a public speaker. So we'll be getting into all kinds of subjects with her today. So without any delays, I figured we'll just get right into it. So let me switch over to Kathryn. Kathryn, welcome. Thanks for being on.
Hello, I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Adnan.
Well, I'm glad we were able to work it out, because you had me nervous a little bit, because it seemed like you were changing your password, and we're still very close to the start time. So, but we made it work. So.
Yeah, well, like I always say, Mercury's retrograde, so communication glitches. I should have been more prepared than I was, but.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask you to get into that term you just used, because you used it on me a while back, Mercury retrograde. So maybe for everyone else listening to explain that what that means. But for now, I was wanting to see if you could please get a little bit more background information about you. How did you, start out with this? How did you get into these spiritual subjects? And I figured we'll start from there.
Sure. So I think I specifically chose a family that was not into religion or anything like that because it allowed me the freedom to find my own path, which is what I did in my early teens. I was searching for answers. And so, my dad said, churches don't have the answers. So I was intrigued to say, well, there must be something other than this physical world. And so I literally just went to the library and I started reading some books by Ruth Montgomery, some books about Edgar Cayce, and I was hooked. I said, this is it. I found, what I believe is the truth about the universe. And so then I got into transcendental meditation, and from there it just led in all kinds of different metaphysical directions. It's kind of like once you open that door, there's just so much to learn. And so I spent several years at a place called the Berkeley Psychic Institute in California, where we learned to do healings, meditation, and most importantly, readings for the public. And then from there, I went to a place called the School of Metaphysics, where we learned, again, deeper subjects such as dream interpretation, universal laws. And once again, I was intrigued by the types of readings they did. They would do past life readings, health readings, and they were so accurate. After I had my first reading, I said to myself, I'm going to learn how to do that one day. And so I knew I had to do their whole program of study. So I studied there for about 4 years, and then finally began training to do the readings. And so that's when I met my current husband, and he was also training to do the readings. And so when we got together, we said, well, we'll do the readings together ourselves. And so that's what we did. And so I've really been on this journey, I'd say, since my teens. And it's been an amazing one. And like people say, it's not always a smooth sailing cruise ship, right? When you get into the metaphysics, it does have its challenges, but it's been well worth the journey.
Well, Kathryn, I wanted to cover, of course, the books that you've written, and you at least, I'm sorry I don't have the info with me, but at least what, two books on your own and another two with your husband as well?
Yeah. So a big part of the metaphysical journey that I was on was what is purpose? What am I here to do? And so obviously traditional routes didn't really give me the answers. So I had an astrology reading, and I was completely blown away by the information that came through. I felt like finally I had connected with somebody who could understand me, who understood some of the desires I had in life and so forth. And so that led me on a path to study all forms of tools for self-awareness, I call them. So it was astrology, numerology, palmistry, iris analysis, the past life work, and family birth order. And so after about 10 years of working with these different tools, I said, I need to write a book about this because this is a path that other people could take. And so that was the first book. It was called Soul Choices, 6 Paths to Find Your Life Purpose. And so in this book, I really teach that if you use those tools, the astrology, the palmistry, and so forth, to fully understand yourself, you will understand what your purpose is in the process, which is understanding your gifts and talents that you are here to give to the world. And then also understanding what are your weaknesses. We all have challenges. And so at the same time as we're developing these gifts and talents, we have to understand the challenges and work through those as well. And so then I was always interested in relationships. And so I said, well, let me apply this information to relationships. And that led me to the second book in that series, which is Soul Choices, 6 Paths to Fulfilling Relationships. So I took the same paths, astrology, numerology, past lives, and specifically applied them to understand the dynamics in relationships. Because I always thought it was fascinating. You could be with one person and feel a certain way, and then be with somebody else and feel completely different. I thought, well, it's still me in both of these cases. What has changed? Well, the person I'm with. And so what happens is, depending on the person you're with, the energy dynamics change. And each person has their own set of influences, which will awaken in you different things. So we really form relationships for our own personal self-growth in the end, right? Different people will trigger different things in us. And so it's really interesting to study the dynamics and what happens when, your planets collide with somebody else's. And really, I believe that relationships are the greatest path to self-growth. So, in the olden days, maybe some of the great seekers would go into a cave and meditate for 20 years and come out enlightened. But I think today we're on a different path. I think today it's really about understanding relationships, community, and using those paths as a way to awaken and understand who we truly are. And so that's why I'm really passionate about the book on relationships. I think it's also one of the areas in life where most people are extremely confused. We just have to look around, right? There's relationship problems all over. And then, of course, dream interpretation is a huge part of understanding ourselves as well as our relationships. And so I did write a book, co-wrote a book with my husband called Naked in Public Dream Symbols Revealed. And so we've been working with couples, individuals on understanding the dreams because they tell the truth about you and your interactions with other people.
Well, so just to stay true to the title that I've had today, I've wanted to then ask you to maybe go a little bit into each one, and I'll ask you which one to go to do first. So, for example, astrology. What is that? What have you learned, and what, if you can really break it down for someone that doesn't know, doesn't not to assume anything that they know regarding planets and what each planet, or what effects they have, and all this other stuff. If you could simply kind of break it down in layman terms, how astrology would, let's say, work in our day-to-day life. So, for example, earlier today, what did you say? The planets are in Mercury in retrograde, correct?
Right,
Okay,
right.
so maybe to go into, if you don't mind, what does that mean?
Sure. So Mercury is a planet of communication. And so when it rules everything about our personal communication. And so anytime it goes retrograde, it simply means that the planet slows down and the energy goes inward. So imagine all of a sudden your email service slows down and it now takes 5 hours for an email to get somewhere as opposed to 5 seconds. So that's kind of what happens when Mercury goes retrograde. Everything about communication slows down. And so that creates an opportunity for communication snafus, like what happened to me. All of a sudden I log on to Skype and the password was changed, couldn't get an account.
Hold on, you were
You make
breaking
a
up.
phone call to somebody, you
I
can't
think you
get
were
through
going
to
to
the.
say password change, right? You broke up there, so I'm just trying to fill in what we couldn't hear.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, how interesting. I'm talking about communication and we have a
Right.
communication glitch. Yeah, so Mercury, which deals with everything about communication, when it goes retrograde, it slows down. So imagine if it normally takes 5 seconds to send an email, now it could take 5 hours, right? Or it doesn't even go through. So there's the potential when Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year for about 3 to 4 weeks each time. And so during that period, it's really a time to go inward and contemplate the relationship with yourself, how you communicate with your own inner self, as well as how you communicate with other people. And expect things not arriving when they're supposed to. Problems with an order that you place online. Um, an email doesn't, you think it's got sent and it doesn't. Just the other day, my husband sent something from a hotel on the email, but we just found out today that the transfer didn't go through. So I always recommend to people, don't sign big contracts when Mercury's retrograde. Like, don't sign a contract for a $250,000 home if you can help it when Mercury's retrograde. It will go direct on June 22nd. So we're actually going to be putting a house up for sale. I said we're going to wait till after June 22nd because if you sign a house deal, it could go through or it could fall through when Mercury's retrograde. So big things you want to hold off on. If you have to travel during a Mercury retrograde, for example, you'll want to make all your travel plans before it goes retrograde. You'll have a better chance of things going smoothly. And each retrograde is different. Some of them affect you more than others depending on your personal chart. And so I say that astrology is simply a tool for greater self-awareness. So at the time of your birth, if we take a picture of the heavens, we would see the placement of the planets. And that particular planetary placement of all of them creates a personality imprint on the person. And so it does dictate a lot how you will approach and respond to life. So I think it's the greatest tool for psychology in terms of understanding why we do the things we do. What are our strong points? What are our weak points? And the other interesting thing about astrology is that you can also use it to understand future events. So I don't use it so much as a predictive tool, for example, to say somebody, well, in 6 months, you're going to meet the perfect person. It's more like these are the potential opportunities coming up for you in the next 6 to 12 months. It's up to you to take action. So just like in metaphysics, we can't just sit here and visualize and hope something happens. We often have to take physical action. So the planets are here to support us. And when we take action, we typically will get results based on the different cycles we go through. And so there's, debate about how many planets there are, but basically 10, 11 planets that we work with. A chart, which is based on your time of birth, will have 12 houses around it. And each house represents an area of life, like a house of communication, the house of career. And so by looking at where the planets fall, we can see our life purpose, where that energy should be directed. And that's fascinating because people come to me all the time and say, well, what am I supposed to do for a career? And the first thing I do is I look at the most prominent planets and where they're located in a person's chart. And I would say, well, according to your chart, you're supposed to direct your energies in such and such direction. Maybe it's the area of communication or the area of creativity or the area of health and service. And if just that little piece of information can get somebody going on the right track. So it's highly valuable and helpful for somebody to help them complete their mission successfully.
So I would assume that this is what has been developed a long time ago and it's been around for many centuries.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's one of the oldest, I think, intuitive sciences that are around. You have Vedic astrology, which actually comes from India. That's probably even predates Western astrology. So they actually say that it's the roots of psychology because if you study the planets, each planet has a particular personality. And most of those are then transferred to psychology and understand the archetypes, right? The personality archetypes are really based on the planetary archetypes. So I really feel it's the foundation for so much of modern day psychology today.
So
And
I
it's
guess let's
just a,
go. Yeah, I'm sorry. It took me a bit longer to respond. What I was just gonna see. Do you want to then go into numerology and see what it is, and maybe make a comparison how it would differ to astrology?
Sure. Yeah. So once again, I would say that it's a tool for greater self-awareness, but instead of using the planets, it uses numbers. And it's a great starting point for a lot of people in metaphysics because it's very simple and clear cut. This is how you calculate your life path number, right? You add your birth month, birth day, and year of birth together, add them up, and there's your life path number, for example. And there's not as much interpretation as to what the numbers mean as there is in astrology in terms of what does this planet mean and this configuration mean. It's a little bit more vague in astrology or a little bit more open to interpretation based on the astrologer's own conscious mind information. So with numerology, for example, not only can we see a personality imprint based on your time and date of birth, but also we can use it as a tool for prediction to understand possible future events, globally as well as individually. So again, similar to astrology, there's numbers that are more significant than others. For example, your life path number, which is based on your date of birth, really tells what are you supposed to do. So for fun, if you want, now we can do your numbers and we'll talk about your life path number if you
Sure,
think
why
that
not?
would be. Okay, what's your birthday?
February 1st, 1984.
Okay. So what we do, February is the second month. So we have a 2. Your day of birth is a 1. And then we add up your birth year, 1984, which gives us 22. Okay. Let's see if I did that right. 10, 18. Yeah, 22. So 22 is a master number. So we're not going to reduce that. So we get, oh, you're going to love this. Okay. So Adnan, your life path is a 7. Okay.
Okay.
So a 7 is the metaphysical number. This is the number of the mind and somebody who came here to understand the deeper questions of the universe. Why am I here? What is the universe about? What makes me tick? What makes other people tick? I want to explore the underworld. And so you may be very introspective. You may prefer to spend a lot of time in research and study to understand the dynamics of the universe. What is beyond the physical is what your interest is. You see this physical world, but you say to yourself, well, this is just an illusion. What's beyond it? And so you are here to research, analyze, and get to understand what are the workings of the universe. So your gifts, in terms of your purpose, we can see you're doing it, right? With the UFO
Right.
hub. You are bringing
That's funny.
deep knowledge to the world that's not just, everyday stuff. And then the challenge of the number 7 is to learn to open up and trust people, because sometimes the 7 can, be a little bit uncertain about other people's motives or not trusting. And so it's to open up and trust others as you unravel the mysteries of the universe, and not to be a recluse, to engage with people while still being able to do your research into the inner mysteries.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's I mean, for a quick thing, I think it's pretty right on. I'll see later on with my wife and see if she confirms.
Yeah.
But I mean, it sounds I mean, obviously, I mean, the whole channel and everything I've always talked about is always the deeper understanding that there's always more to everything that you see and experience. So it's just I'm glad it worked out. So when it comes to then regarding, you have these, numerology and astrology. Now you have palmistry, and then what'd you call it, iris?
Yeah, the actual study is called RAYID, RAYID, RAYID iris analysis.
So that's more basically reading so basically this is something each individual body would give you, or information about each person, correct?
Yeah, so the iris analysis is fun because it uses the eyes as a tool. So we actually look into a person's eyes, or we take photographs of the eyes, and we look for certain patterns and where the patterns occur to, once again, understand the person's personality, gifts and talents, creative style, life purpose, life challenges, from a different perspective than numbers or planets. And so, they say the eyes are the window to the soul. And after I did this study and learned it, I would definitely say that that's true. It was fascinating to me when I took my first class in the Rayid iris. Now, this is not to be confused with iridology, which is the study of the physical body through the eyes. That looks at the constitution, organ strength and weakness, and so forth. But Rayid iris has nothing to do with that, except that it uses the eyes as a tool. But we look at the psycho-spiritual aspects as opposed to the physical health aspects. And so I remember the teacher, Denny Johnson, who I give total credit for that study, went around the room and looked in everybody's eyes and told us like one profound thing. And he looked at my eyes and said, "Oh, you're the spiritual seeker." I thought, oh my gosh, how did he see that in my eyes? And so I knew from that point I was hooked, and I had to learn everything about it that I could. And so it's a lot also the eyes ancestral influences that come from mom's side of the family as well as dad's side of the family. These traits coming through into the eyes. So it's really interesting to see, based on the eyes, who you got more traits from. Was it mom's side or dad's side? And then to think about who in the family lineage you think you got some of those traits from.
So how would that process work? Would you have to look very closely into their eyes, or uh, like can you literally paint us a picture? Is it do you just get right up to their face and observe what the eye looks like?
Yeah, so if you have an iris camera, which is ideal, there's special cameras. They're expensive. You can actually take a photograph of the eye and then blow it up so that you can see all the details. Now, if you don't have the camera, magnifying glass and a pen light, and so you want to shine the light, from the side of the eye, and hold the special magnifying glass up so that you can see clearly the trait. So sometimes if the person has light colored eyes and the lighting's good, you can just look, but you'll miss stuff if you don't have a magnifying glass, for example.
And so, what are you looking for specifically? Certain patterns that will reveal things to you?
Right. So Denny Johnson, the originator of the method, found that there's four main iris patterns and four combination types. And so we look for these shapes. For example, there's one type of iris constitution called the flower. And literally you look for flower petaled shapes in the iris. Another iris type is called the jewel. And that is characteristic of you're looking for little specks of color, usually circular in shape, that are found in the iris. And then there's a shaker iris type where you'll find both flowers and jewels together in the eye. And then you can have combination types as well. So that's what you're looking for.
And so, then to regarding palmistry, what are you looking for there? Because I know there's always these lines, and they call them the lifeline and how long you live and all that other stuff. If it's not too much trouble, could you go into as much detail as you can about that?
Yeah, and I think I gave you a palm reading last time at the Transformation Conference, didn't I?
I think so. It's been
I
it's been a
think,
while. It's been a long time, like
yeah,
four
I remember
years, 5 years
that.
ago.
Yep. So with palmistry, there's so many different aspects of the hand to look at. So first of all, we look at the shape of the palm and the fingers together, and we have a similarity between palmistry and astrology. For example, astrology works with the elements fire, earth, air, water. The same in palmistry, we have fire palms, earth palms, air, and water palms, or combination like fire, air palm. And that's all based on the shape and size of the hand and the fingers. Um, so we look at that. That's the most important thing to understand a person's temperament. Okay. For example, a palm that's fire, gregarious, fast paced, quick to respond type person. They take
Hold on.
initiative.
Can you just back up maybe 10 seconds ago? You said you were going to say, for example, and then your camera froze and audio. You were
Oh, yeah,
just about to
sure.
start into, you said earth palm. What was that? Or fire palm?
Yeah, so we have fire, earth, air, water palm, and then we have combinations like fire, earth, air, water. And so, for example, a pure fire palm is somebody whose temperament is one to respond with energy and enthusiasm to life. They're quick moving. They can often make rash decisions, right? They jump into things like fire signs and astrology would. So there's a similarity there. So after we look at the palm shape, which is based on the length of the fingers and the palm, then we would look at the fingerprint patterns. And once again, there's four types of fingerprint patterns. There's whorl, loop, wave, and tent. And those describe the purpose, right? What is our overall purpose in life? And so we won't always have the same fingerprint pattern, but we look for the dominant fingerprint pattern. What is the one that is most significant? Um, After that, we look at the lines. So the top line, the one closest to the fingers, is the heart line, or emotional line, or water line. And that will extend from the pinky finger and all the way up, usually to either the middle finger or the index finger. It will land somewhere between those two or underneath one of those two. And so we look, is it curved? Is it straight? Are there broken lines? Are there branches coming down from that line? And that basically describes our emotional temperament. Do we even focus on emotions? Are we logical, or are we more irrational with our emotions? Are we aware of how others feel and how we affect other people? Those kinds of things. Then the next line underneath that is called the headline. And that is basically a lot about how we think, the strength of our ability to focus and concentrate. And are we more logical, or are we the type of people that want to sit around and philosophize about something for hours and hours? Are we intuitive, or are we more practical? Okay. And that depends on the length of the line and where it ends. Then we have the earth line, or the, some people would say, oh, that's how you can tell how long you'll live, but that's not true. It really just describes our approach in response to life. It's also the sexuality. So that line can start anywhere from underneath the thumb to the middle of the palm, and it wraps around, curving and ending somewhere near the headline. Sometimes it touches the headline, sometimes it intersects with it, sometimes it doesn't touch it. And that kind of shows how open we are to life. Our physical strength. If we have a lot of broken lines, it sometimes can signal a weak constitution. All right. And then we look at the Saturn line, which describes a lot about our career in life. And so once again, it can start at various different places, which gives clues. For example, if your Saturn line starts over underneath the pinky finger, anywhere over there, that typically signals somebody who will have a career with the public, like singer, or actress, or somebody who's going to be mingling and relating to the public a lot. Somebody who starts right in the middle of the palm will tend to have more of a traditional type of career. How far the line goes up, whether it breaks, can indicate if the person will change careers midlife, and so forth. So then after we look at the lines, we can look for special markings in the hand, and there's many of them. And we also will look at the texture, how stiff or soft the hand is. And then we can have fun with a little bit of hand psychology, where we'll have the person put their hands in different positions, and we'll see how they hold their hands, and it tells us a lot about their current mental state. So there's a whole bunch of things we can see from the palms.
Right. All right. Well, so for any of you that just tuning in, I'm talking to Kathryn Andries, and we've just basically went through the basics that I had written out in the title, which was astrology, numerology, palmistry, and more. But then she also went into Kathryn. What was the one more time? Iris.
So we
What
talked
was it
about
called?
rayed iris analysis.
Rate of Iris. I'll take your word for it. So anyway, so so we'll continue obviously with the interview, but I just wanted to tell those of you who are just now logged in, this is also simultaneously or voice only going on Telegram. So Telegram is also where you will be able to join the voice chat, and when it's time for Q&A later on, I can you simply say tap to ask to speak, which looks like a little person with their hand raised. Tap that, and it'll tell me that you would like to ask a question, and then you'll be able to connect with Kathryn directly and ask your question. So just letting you know, get your questions ready. And but if you do not wish to do that, you can simply just use Telegram to listen, or at any of the other, either YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, in the comments, you can, if you could put 3 little stars before your question, that will tell me that this question is directed for the guest, and then I'll ask it for you. So anyway, just wanted to get that out of the way. So, Kathryn, when it, what is there any one of those methods? Is there a preferred method that you would like to basically work with, or does it really depend on the person? And after after you tell them what it is that the services that you can offer, do you leave it up to them to choose, or do you just kind of get a sense about, well, maybe an astrology reading will give you more accurate information as opposed to a palm reading or something like that?
Yeah, it's usually kind of a co-creative process, working with the person, seeing what their needs are, where they're at in life, and based on that, I usually suggest what I think, and then of course get the client's input, and then we usually come to a consensus about what would be best, and it's different for every person based on their circumstances. People who obviously are looking for example, hey, I have to make some decisions in the next 6 to 12 months and I don't know what to do about my business. They're looking for some future information. And so astrology and numerology are the two tools that can help us see future cycles and opportunities. So I would choose one of those. If a person is having a relationship issue with somebody and they feel like the roots of that go back far, I would probably suggest a past life reading or a past life relationship reading to get to the root of where these issues began. Um, so
Meaning
those
a
tools have
reading,
specific
is there something
needs.
that you can do for them, or what do you mean with past life reading?
So with a past life reading, a lot of time the roots of a current conflict and relationship have their roots in a past life. The dynamics of a relationship often don't start in the present. They were patterns picked up in past lives and they're continuing. So I'll give you an example. So years ago, I was dating somebody, and he was very controlling, and he was wanting me to relocate to where he was, and I was just not feeling like I wanted to do that. But there was this part of me that always felt kind of like I should, or needed to listen to him. And so I wanted to figure out, because I've never had a relationship like that before, and I wanted to figure out what was going on. Why were these dynamics present with this person that I hadn't experienced before? So as we got a past life relationship crossing, it had revealed that we had been tribal uh, members in two different communities, two different tribes. And he had convinced me to leave my tribe and go over to be with him. And as a result of that, I was shunned by my family, by my own tribe's people. It was very difficult for me, and led to a lot of difficulties. Uh, and anyway, there was more, but that was the crux of it. And I was like, oh, wow, so this is happening again. He's trying to get me to move and, give up certain things that I had in my life. And so it really helped me to make a different decision. I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do it again. I don't really want to, and it didn't turn out good last time. So I'm not going to do it. So we can really understand the roots. And if we don't like the dynamics, we now have the ability, with the knowledge from the past life reading, to make a different choice in the present. Otherwise, we keep doing the same thing over and over again, instead of making difficult decisions that can be challenging, that will move us in a different direction. Because most of us like comfort. And even if it's not the greatest thing, a lot of us are attached to what we've done in the past. So
So how would
that's one example of how a
yeah,
reading helps.
how would a reading occur? Do you kind of get into this meditative state, or is there something else that you tap into?
So we do what's called the Edgar Cayce style readings. And so Edgar Cayce was known as a sleeping prophet, and he discovered that he was able to go into a trance-like state. And in that state, which is beyond the conscious mind, he was able to see, for example, a person's health aura, or he was able to see people's past lives. So what we do for the readings is we do it in a team of two, my husband and I, and he puts me into that state, a trance-like state, where I'm not in my conscious mind. Okay, I'm beyond that filter, into that subconscious deep level. And the conscious mind has its limits. We can only see a certain distance, right? We have filters. But the subconscious mind has no barriers. And so we can see past, present, and future. So we've been doing these readings for almost 20 years now. So it takes me working with my husband, about 5 minutes to get into that state. and then he interfaces with the person who's getting the reading if they're present, or sometimes we do readings for people who aren't present. They do not need to be present. We only work off a person's name. And that's how it's pretty much done. So when I come out of it, I don't usually remember what occurred in the reading, but if somebody starts talking about their reading and they're all excited about it and ask questions, it may come back to me kind of like a dream.
Okay. Well, so you've kind of gone over the different, I guess, for lack of a better word, tools, if if I can call them that. And so I wanted to ask you now about what it is that you and Patrick do with Intuitive School. If you can go a little bit into that, and maybe where you're located, or if you do you have a physical location, or is it online?
Right. So yeah, Intuitive School. We're based in Kansas City, so we do a lot of events at different centers around the area, workshops and so forth. We also do all of our offerings online. So anybody can reach us from anywhere in the world at intuitiveschool.com. And we do all the things we've been talking about. We do the astrology readings, the past life readings, the particular courses that we offer. We have a whole series of about 9 classes, based on the mind, based on dreams, based on, we have a relationship program. We have a mind program, helping people understand every aspect about the mind, like how to visualize, how to concentrate, how to understand our mental patterns. We have a whole course on dream interpretation, helping people recall their dreams, interpret them, understand them, lucid dreaming. Then we have a relationship course, teaches everybody everything you ever wanted to know about relationships. We cover things like identifying a toxic relationship, such as one where it involves projection. We teach how to communicate better with people. We do the past life relationship readings in the course to help people understand their past lives with people. We teach a great process where when we're triggered by somebody, we teach them how to understand what the trigger is and change it. Because most of our life, if we don't understand that, we get drained because people are triggering us, right? And it's not a fun way to live. So we teach how to understand what these triggers are, resolve them. So it's a very in-depth course. And those are and then we offer a career course for people who are looking for guidance in that area. What am I here to do? So it's a lot about life purpose and understanding your strengths and how to channel that into a career.
And so there's in the descriptions below the video, there's all the links to the different websites, and also to the main Ozark page where all your books and previous conferences and talks that have had. So if you get a chance, for those watching, check it out. And there's I would really recommend it, considering when it comes to these different tools. Initially, when I first heard about these different things, it seems so. Obviously, there's something so taboo about it, because it's something that, if you're in a social setting, it's sometimes embarrassing to be talking about it. But it depends on if you have a place. For example, I found when people are a bit more comfortable or more relaxed, and somebody like one of my friends, Kat, she's psychic. People are kind of hesitant about it, but then she just does what she normally does when she talks to people, and she's always done it for as long as I've known her, where she just goes up and says something to a person, and they just go like, "What?" Like something, like don't go to the job interview, or this is not the job you're looking for, and then she walks away. And it's not that she's trying to be mischievous or for a reason, but it's just the way her brain has always worked. She just kind of embraced it and has kind of communicated with people in that way. So if you're willing to get past that awkwardness, we're like, what in the world is this person about? It's really amazing of how she does it. And so do you find yourself sometimes, when people find out all the different things that you do, that they ask you, can you please do like you just did, a numerology reading for me, or palm reading or something like that? Does that happen to you?
Oh yeah, like, oh, can you read my palm, or what do you see in my eyes? And I kind of sometimes stay away from giving them an answer, because if you don't do the full reading, you give somebody bits and pieces, and it's really not complete. But oh yeah, I get that all the time, and I will definitely interpret people's dreams when they ask me about them, because that's something simple that I can do, that I feel like, sometimes a little bit of information is dangerous. So if I just tell somebody one thing about their astrology chart, not looking at the whole thing, it can be sometimes misleading for a person, but a dream interpretation can be very insightful, and I don't need hours and hours of research with the person just to interpret a dream.
A bit quicker than, I guess, using some of the other tools. So what a part of
Yeah.
the dream, I'm sorry, we didn't really, I didn't think to ask you about that, but you kept bringing it up. What about a dream? Is there specific things that you look forward to that have certain meaning, obviously symbols and whatnot?
Well, I think the biggest indicator in a dream are the people that appear in the dream. So we work from the standpoint that every person, place, and thing in the dream is an aspect of the dreamer. And so when a person appears in your dream, that person is representing an aspect of you. And so we always ask the person to give us 2 words to describe the person. Like, oh, he's funny and supportive, right? And so that shows that the previous day they were using those qualities of themselves. Those are qualities they have within them. So the brain, to show you those qualities, will find a person that represents funny and supportive, for example. So it's just fascinating how the brain works to go in there and pull out people, or objects that will reflect back to you the meaning of what
Mm.
you were thinking about the previous day. So first we look at who are the people in the dreams. Then we look at the what. What were the people doing? Kind of like what we learned in school: who, what, where, when, how, and why. We really do look at all those aspects to get the full scope of the dream. And then in addition, one of the big things I look at when I hear a dream is what's out of place in the dream, right? Like, sometimes we'll have these crazy dreams, like a house, but it's flooded with water. We look at what is out of whack with the dream, and that shows what's kind of going on with the person that's out of balance.
So does water have a certain meaning? Or is it just like supposed to symbolize or being overwhelmed or something? I don't know. I'm just guessing here.
Yeah, well, actually, you're pretty right on there. So,
Oh,
water
really? No,
represents our
honestly, I
emotion.
totally was guessing. Just first thing came to my mind. It was
Yeah,
that's
no,
how I would feel.
yeah. So water is our emotions. And so how we're dealing with the water, what's happening with it, shows how we're dealing with the emotions. So yeah, if you're getting flooded, it's like you are overwhelmed emotionally. And that happens quite often with people. Um, if you're enjoying this nice, peaceful swim in the ocean, wow, this person's moving through life with their emotions in a pretty calm manner, right? Their emotions are supporting them. If a person's drowning, it's like overwhelmed to the point of harming the person. When we can get over emotional, right? We could become depressed. We could worry so much we create an ulcer, those kinds of things. So dreams can also help us change the future, because if we have a recurring dream and we see patterns, we can change them, especially if they're destructive ones.
Okay. So, did you? I mean, obviously, I know in my personal life, when I'm interested in something, I'm so passionate about it that it just kind of takes over my life, and I go about learning all I can learn about this, and it's fun. I never really think about all that detail that kind of goes with it, and the next thing I know, I have this vast knowledge that I just kind of soaked in without really even have to struggle. If I were to, if I was at school and somebody told me to study this, I would feel overwhelmed because there would be so much to remember, so many things. But because it was more a passion and it's just kind of fun, it just stuck. You didn't have to learn it. It didn't have to be memorized, so to say. Do you find that to be the same thing for you as you kind of started out? For even though there's so much to learn in astrology, numerology, palmistry, dream reading, and all of that, that you just kind of what effect, did it have on you learning it? Did you want to have an overwhelming desire, or was it something that you kind of grudgingly like, well, I'm going to add this to my tool set, but it's not really what I want to, learn more about?
Oh, it was definitely an intense passion. I couldn't stop. I mean, I'm a seeker to the core, and so when I find a new tool that is valuable and has offered me something, I can't wait to get in there and figure out. I want to learn how to do this for myself, and then to help other people with it. So it's always been a burning passion. It's like I can't stop. Basically, my mom's always telling me, "Slow down. You got to give yourself a rest." But my mind is always going. So I actually have to make it an effort to say, "Okay, time to slow down and take an in breath and." Uh, Use this tool to the fullest before I delve into something new.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I'm often like I get over I get so almost like in this obsessive mode about something, and I get to learn it very well, and then it's kind of part of my skill set, and then I seemingly let it go. Like, just to give you a perfect example, it's like years ago I got really into like reloading bullets, right? And so I was buying the little scale and the grains and the powder and the machine and all of that stuff. I had this whole little setup, and I was learning about, how much, do you use, and, how do you make a proper bullet and all that. And at that time, even to this day, it's a lot cheaper when you go to shooting range, having your own to shoot instead of having to constantly buy because they're, at a premium and higher price. So, and then once I learned it, I just let it go. All this money that was invested in, getting up to the point to learn it, I just absolutely like just let it go and haven't touched it in years, but I still know it. It's still ingrained in me, and it's just so weird how that works sometimes. I wish that, I mean, in a way, it's good because it becomes this passionate project for a little while, but then, you have this, okay, all these hundreds of dollars were now kind of, you know, sitting there. They're not being used anymore. And so I think I ended up giving it away to people I know that are still do it regularly. So in a way, I know the equipment didn't go to waste, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, the human mind and the way humans do things can be weird sometimes. I mean, I guess I don't know if everyone can relate if they ever get in those modes. I don't know about you, but it's just I don't know, it's just so weird that we develop like that as humans.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's all about cycles and finding balance in life. We'll have a cycle where all we want to do is read, and then we're like, okay, then we move into a different cycle. We're like, okay, I'm done with reading books. Now I want to experience life, and so we move into that cycle. So I can see how my interests have shifted based on cycles. Sometimes I find I just want to be in nature right now. I'm looking more for balance. I've done so much studying and head stuff. I'm like, okay, I just want to like be in nature and turn off the mind a little bit. Not that I'm giving up any of the tools, I still use them, but I've studied them to the max. It's like, okay, now it's time to be in nature a little bit. But I'll experience spurts like with writing, where when the pandemic hit, like I just went into this writing mode and wrote for like 6 months straight. I wrote like 3 movie scripts, and, and then I was like, I was done. I was like, okay, I'm done with writing for a while. I got it out of my system. So yeah, and I think it relates a lot if you study your astrological cycles to what's going on with the numerology as well as astrology cycles. As I say, there's a time and place for everything, and so I think that
Well,
explains it.
Catherine, I don't want to put you on the spot, and just you said the pandemic. So, were you when you were? I don't know if you were doing any kind of readings leading up to that. Was there something that you could see that was coming down the pike that that kind of was clear, like, oh, okay, all these signs I've been seeing and all these different people that it turned out to be this pandemic. Did anything like that occur to you?
Before it happened, I didn't get any, information, but we were into it for about 2 weeks. And I woke up one morning. I said, "Oh, I said, no, there's something else going on here." I knew there was something fishy. Things just weren't adding up. And that's when I began to do some deep research into a lot of areas that I really hadn't paid much attention into. A lot of political things, really this idea of connecting the dots. And I realized how valuable that is in anything in life. Like if it's our physical body, right? If we have a symptom or something, if we don't connect the dots, we're never really going to get to the root of that problem, right? We're just looking at, oh, I got a sore big toe, right? But connect it. Oh yeah, I went hiking and then this and these. Oh, you connect the dots, right? The same thing with what's happening in the world today. If we just take everything at face value and what the news tells us, we're really not getting an accurate picture. And we're never going to really understand what's going on underneath the propaganda that we're shown. And so I intuitively knew, okay, I got to research. There's something else going on. So I did, and started connecting the dots, and really came to some huge discoveries about how the world's run and what's really going on, that it was actually fascinating. And so, at first I was angry at what was going on. And then when you begin to see the bigger picture, then you can come up with solutions and what you need to do for yourself, to survive in the world, and kind of to know what's coming. And so that's when I started figuring out, what was going on and how I could help other people and myself.
And so, I mean, would people come in and talk to you to see, like, okay, what can they do based on some of the tools that you might use to say, can you please give me an astrological reading? What should I do during this pandemic time? Has that happened?
Definitely, yeah. And so I used a lot of astrology to help other people understand what the pandemic was triggering for them, and why they, because I believe we chose our time of birth. So everybody who's alive right now, I believe we chose to be alive at this space and time, right? This place and time with everything going on, and we all have a different role to play in it. And so I used a lot of astrology to help people understand personally what the world events uh, mean for them and how they could respond. So that was very valuable, as well
Was
as a
there
little bit of numerology also.
was there something specific that was kind of like a common thing that kept coming up for people to do?
Well, yeah, so Saturn, which is the planet of structure, the status quo, right, is making a difficult aspect all year to the planet Uranus, which is the planet of change. So we're all in this dynamic of the old status quo versus the new. So we're all having to look at our life and say, what patterns do I need to disrupt? How have I been living just comfortably or according to the status quo? And in what way can I shake it up and change it? So that's what it has meant for everybody. Now, the area of life where people need to change it up is different for each person. I mean, for me, it related a lot to the career, and where to focus my energies in terms of the career. For other people, it was different things, but that's what this year is all about globally, individually, and we can see in the political scene. It's the old entrenched swamp, if you want to call it that, versus shaking it up. Uranus is about freedom, and boy, we see people all over the world standing up for their rights in ways that they haven't before, standing up for freedoms, trying to break through the corrupt governments, plural, right, throughout the world. And a lot of ideas, people are realizing, that government isn't really there to help them, and that true freedom is our gift, right? We were born with free will. And so that the way we can all really thrive is in an uncontrolled, free environment. That is metaphysically what will help us thrive, is when we are free. If we're being told what to do like a bunch of robots, how do we practice our free will? How can we be these creative beings without freedom? And that's really what all of us want. And so that's what this whole Saturn versus Uranus is bringing up in a lot of us, is this urge for freedom, because we're experiencing, and we have experienced over the past year, what it's like when suddenly people are trying to take away our freedoms.
So you know what it was like for me when of the sudden, like the news and like the energy and of everything, the way everything was being told, there was like a definite shift, right? About, okay, there's this thing out there, right? Which was obviously the pandemic, and then how everyone just kind of focused on it. And for me, that feeling and the way it started out and the way then it continued for the next year, I know people that haven't been into this and don't quite understand, they might think they're like, what has this got to do with anything else? But I'm talking about a perceived energy. During 9/11, there was something that happened to me and many of my other friends, not everybody, to where we just kind of there was something awakened within us to where we need to look more into what's going on. And it was so much harder finding out all these different things that was going on, like with Building 7 and how that occurred, and all the findings that were just off, that were not in the official report. And we were just kind of like these crazies. We're like, guys, look at this information. Everybody's like, the official story is already out. Why are you questioning it? And so that's what it felt like to me. Now I don't know if you agree with it or disagree, but the point was, if it was this very pertinent change, very very profound change that not everybody was going through. When this pandemic started, I now noticed that everyone else now is finally at the stage where we were like 20 years ago, meaning me and my friends, to where we're like sitting back, kind of crossing our arms. I'm like, all right, well, you all have fun now, trying to figure out all the stuff that we kind of already were into this, trying to make sense of it, about, like you said, freedoms being taken away, and for the sake of security. How much of it, one information was racist during one term, but then perfectly acceptable during another term. That you have the psychological control of the public, and that's the way I was looking at it. I don't know if how you stand there regarding that, but I don't know if you can or want to maybe speak about that, or maybe from your personal experience.
Well, definitely. I think it's all about how we use our mind and clear perception. And I think this pandemic brought out, how easily the mind can be swayed, manipulated, brainwashed, basically. Even people I know who have been on the metaphysical path um, were brainwashed into believing the propaganda, and I was shocked. And so I wanted to figure out, how is it that certain people that I thought would totally see through what was going on weren't. And so it really led to this idea of we've got to be able to see clearly what's going on, and how important it is to gain control of our own mind, and not be emotionally swayed by oh, I like this person or that person, or old beliefs like, oh, the system would never do this and these people would be good. I think metaphysically a lot of people got sucked into this idea that well, certain people the government wouldn't do that, they wouldn't be that bad, that's a conspiracy theory, they wouldn't be that evil, and it's like I think for a lot of metaphysical people, it's hard for them to wrap their mind around evil, that people can be very evil. It doesn't matter what position you're in. And that's why a lot of people will reject conspiracy theories. Oh, that's no, that couldn't be that's, and all you have to do is look back in history and see the evil that's gone on in the world to see that it can and does happen. And I think there's a fear of people to see what's really there, right? A lot of us go into denial, oh, maybe we think our spouse is having an affair, but we don't want to look at it. So we ignore all the red flags, right? We do it all the time in our life. We want to deny what's scary. So people did that all along with the pandemic. They wanted to deny, oh, government officials would only be doing this for our own good, denying the truth. So we go into denial. So all these different mental patterns came up. The Stockholm syndrome, where people who had been abused in the past will do anything to appease and please the abuser, all these kinds of things. Um, so I think looking into those patterns is how we understand how what normally would be a very intelligent person could buy into the propaganda and not see what's really going on. And that to me has been fascinating. And I, prayed every night, like, thank God I can see what's really going on, so I know who to trust and how to prepare myself for what's happening in the world today.
Well, I
Um,
don't know. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just gonna say, I don't know if you noticed too, but I noticed since that there truly, everyone was so prepared for the world to end in 2012, and even then, I knew and understood that it wasn't going to be an ending, but it was going to be an apocalypse for the sense of a new beginning, and in the sense that everything that was hidden will be revealed, and so even leading up to that point, and definitely after that, so much started coming out to where you have whistleblowers, right? Before all, I would, everyone was always constantly talking about and making fun of the different, not to mention their names. I don't know if the algorithm is going to get triggered, but they were talking about governments, listening to phone calls, governments, watching, reading your emails, doing all this other stuff, right? And so, haha, conspiracy theories, right? But then, especially with Snowden, he came out and basically published everything that that was supposed to be conspiracy theory that was true. They even made a movie about it, about what it is that the NSA and the government does under this guise of your safety and security, only to just collect data, whether they need to collect it or not, for maybe it might be useful sometime in the future, and then they can search it with all these different search algorithms that they've designed to where they can, whatever, quote unquote, find threats, but then as it turns out, they just use it for other reasons that are not even anything security related, just to spy on people because it's fun, and so that was one example. And I thought in the very beginning, I was like, people are going to be so mad when this comes out, but then it came out and then nothing, crickets, and I was like, where is nobody care? They just still continue about the day. They're like, well, I have nothing to hide. Well, like Snowden, I think, was said, well, even if you have nothing to hide, doesn't mean that they're still not spying on you, And so there was one of those revelations, right, where you all of a sudden it was a reality and you knew that that's what they were doing. And now you have more about, like especially with this pandemic, about what Fauci knew in the emails, and I don't know how many people even know about the emails. I've read the emails about the origin and what he knew then and didn't say, and it's like, do you have your understanding to go and find this information out on your own, or do you just stick to the mainstream media, and if they don't mention it, therefore it doesn't exist? That's what I'm still puzzled about, because I'm watching and kind of trying to figure out. I've noticed some people, they have these different aha moments to where, just like years ago with UFOs, they would then, recently in the past 5 years come to me and like, hey, can I talk to you about this? To where before they weren't interested. Well, now we're getting to that other part, which was always conspiratorial about what does the swamp know and do behind our backs, And so I just found that to be interesting, how more and more is just coming out in the open, and it's like you can't stop it. It's just if you lied about something, it's going to come out. If whatever happened, there was always in the shadows, it's going to come out. The point is, how are we going to react on it? Are we just going to say, oh yeah, I knew about that, and then again move on? What would have to have happened for people to finally go, this is it, like I'm taking my sovereign rights as a human being into my own hands and control, and now going about making the changes that I can make in my life and in my family and environment? Like, what would it take for people to finally stand up to that extent, on to that level? That's what I'm puzzled about and think about often.
Oh yeah, I think there's many things. I think people are just have such busy lives. They're like, oh, I don't have time for that. That's one thing. Um, And yeah, I mean, I am so connected to people who are the truth seekers. I love it. And, for me, not to be able to get to the bottom of something would drive me crazy. So it's hard for me to understand people who are just like, oh, yeah, I just watch the news, I believe it. It's just so hard to relate to them because it's like truth for me is like, it's everything. And like you said, I think the truth always has a way of bubbling to the surface, which is awesome, because you can't suppress it, especially in today's age. So I think one of the things humanity's faced with now is, do we spend our time trying to fight and change the current structures and corruption, or do we build our own parallel structures? And so I'm on that journey myself right now, where I'm planning, alternative to build community and get away from all the government systems and completely unplug from the system, because I don't want to spend my whole life trying to change these outdated systems that don't work. Whether we're talking about the medical system, whether we're talking about the educational system, it doesn't work, and it would take
It's too
so
much to
much
overcome.
yeah, so much effort to change them. Oh, wouldn't it be more fun to live in community and create our own educational system and our own health system? And people are doing it all over. And so that's more, I'm leaning towards that, because you reach a level of frustration where you're like, these systems aren't going to change. You basically will crumble as more people pull away from them, because they're only propped up because we continue to use them and buy into these systems. So what if we all start building alternative systems and unplug from those? They will just crumble, whether it's the government system, whether it's the medical system, whatever one. So and I think a lot of people don't have the energy to do that. They're like, oh, I couldn't go do that. I'm just going to go along with the system, and so they do. But there's a huge number of people pulling out and building these alternative communities, and so that to me is more exciting, and that's what I am in the process of doing. And in terms
So,
of waking up people, I still, I'm in organizations and groups, and try to awaken as many people as possible, as well, and supporting the whistleblowers, people like you that are telling the truth on the air, all these other real few journalists that are getting the truth out. I try to support them as much as I can.
Kathryn, just real quick, I want to switch the camera off you here soon. Just wanted to ask, is there any way you can get a light source close to you or something?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Let me go.
then that way, yeah. I'm going to switch over just to myself, and then when you come back, we'll add you back too. So yeah, I'm just asking Kathryn to get more light so we can see her easier on the camera. But yeah, I will be talking to Kathryn also a little bit more about the school that she and her husband have, and more information regarding that, or where you can find it. Some of the links already, actually, or all the links are already in the descriptions below. So if you're on YouTube, it's under the video in the description box. If you're on Facebook, it should be, I believe, above the video, because they do it a bit differently. And Twitch, I think it just streams. I don't think they have an option to where you can see. You can write a comment there, but I don't think they have the same options as the other platforms. And so, yeah, we'll be doing some Q&A as well. And so if you have any questions in chat, just type in or put in the 3 little stars before your question, so I know it's meant for the guest. Or if you would like to talk to and ask the question directly of Kathryn, simply download Telegram. If you already have it, great. Just join the UFO Hub group and join the voice chat, and you'll see that I'm already in there, and it seems like 2 other people are in there as well. And so simply raise your hand, and we'll ask a question. I hope you can keep your question short, so we can just get to the point and have the guest answer instead of having a longer dialogue. I'd appreciate that. So let me see if she came back. Okay, that works. Let me switch back a little bit. There you go. There's a little bit more lighting.
I'm on Eastern time. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. Sun's getting ready to set. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Well, so in the intuitive school, you would do maybe I misunderstood something. Do you just offer services to people to give them readings, or do you teach them how to do some of these things themselves, like astrology, numerology, and so on?
So we do have a more in-depth program. where people can learn to be what I call a life purpose consultant, where we do teach them how to use the 6 paths. And so the first part of that is they take the self mastery awareness course, where they go through the 6 paths and they receive the readings, and they're on the receiving end. And then if they're like, hey, this is really cool, I want to know how you did this, then that's the more advanced level where they actually learn uh, these paths themselves and how to use them and use them to help other people.
And so now, currently, you said you have some things that you have. You said different venues, but do you mainly focus online now until you can do it in person again, or do you already have it in person available?
Well, we have been doing events in person. Most of the places we do events at didn't buy into the propaganda, so they were fine offering live classes. We don't have anything scheduled yet because we were taking some time in the summer to do some family things. But starting in the fall, around the Kansas City area, we will be doing live workshops. So stay tuned. If you go to our website, intuitiveschool.com, you'll see posted in September our events for the fall. But right now, it's all online.
Okay. Yeah, I know for because I work during my day job is working for Ozark, and so I know we're already in preparations and getting things ready for the Ozark UFO conference. And there've been so many calls and people are like, "Are you going to be in person next year?" It's like I don't want to do this virtual stuff, and so it's scheduled to be in person, and we're going and planning along in that going down that route. But yeah, just so many people want to be out and about. They just want to be kind of just getting back into how they remember it. And it feels so really weird in a newly liberating way, to where before, where they might have like, oh, I'll just go next year. Now this time, those that really want to be there are going to make sure to be there because they've been already cooped up for 2 years.
Exactly, which is exciting. Yeah.
Right. And so regarding the school, is there an age limit, maybe as how young somebody could start learning this, or is there even an age limit of as they get older that okay, 70, that's it, you're cut off? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, basically on the upper end, there's no age limit. I think my oldest student I had once was 92. She was taking my astrology classes. So you're never too old to learn. So we don't have a limit. In terms of the younger ones, we have offered different programs for kids camps, metaphysical camps, and stuff like that. In terms of the course material, pretty much I would say starting like 12, 14, kids could start to learn, the courses. I'm currently working on a dream program for kids that would be for homeschool curriculum, as well as curriculum for younger kids on visualization. And that would be probably as young as, 6, 7 years old. They could start with the parent help, dreams and visualization. So we are transition our curriculum as we see that public schools are completely failing kids in terms of what they're offering. And they never have offered metaphysical information, which I think they need to have. So we're working on building all our courses into child age, 5, 6, 7, and up material.
What is sort of the lengths of each course? Do they differ in times, or is it all tailored to how fast each person learns?
Yes, programs are pretty full. The online programs, you can work at your own pace. I just am completing a Discover Your Life Purpose course, the self mastery one, and that's been 7 weeks. So we meet each week online. So I would say typically the programs can be done between 6 and 10 weeks.
Okay.
And we like to give at least a week per lesson so that the person has a chance to digest it and apply it to their life.
Do you find the location where you are at that it differs in the interest in these kind of things, or do you just have people from all over the place that it really is not bound to any given region? That let's say people from the Northwest are really into this kind of stuff, but the people in the Southeast are not, or something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I remember when I was in my 20s, I said, "Oh, I want to move out to California because that's where everybody is who's interested in metaphysics." So I did, and I have found as many people there as in the Midwest and Kansas, where I currently live, who are interested in metaphysics. So I don't think anymore it matters geographically where you are. Um, I think, 20, 30 years ago, it was more on the coast where people were open to the new ideas, but now it's everywhere. And so we have been just inundated with local people in the Kansas City area who have been interested in our classes and readings and so forth.
Well, Catherine, I wanted to, if it's okay with you, I wanted to go into the some question and answers, and I don't know how many there will be there, but before we finish up, is there something you would like to say in conclusion?
I would just tell people, never stop searching for the truth, because for every problem or challenge that you face, there is a reason, there is a solution. And so never give up, even if it takes months or years. You will get to the bottom of it.
All right. So let me shift over here. So I'm gonna go to the chat, and there's a question from Bradley. Says, Catherine, quick numerology on my date of birth, or he's asking if you could. Would you be okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, his numbers. Okay. Yeah, he's September 19th, 1983. Yeah.
Okay. So you said his name was Bradley.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So Bradley, your life path number is a 4, and that's a number of stability. And so that shows that this is a lifetime where you really need to be patient, not think that you can start at the bottom of the ladder and go to the top in 2 days, right? You have to take all the necessary steps to get to where you want to go. Learning to be organized, practical, and disciplined will really serve you in life. And the 4 is about building a foundation. So it's a very physical oriented number, which means, if you really focus and are disciplined, you can build a foundation and a great business and a great life for yourself. And along the way, don't get too methodical and stuck in a rut. Like, well, I've always done it this way, so I have to keep doing it this way. Still allow yourself a little bit of flexibility so that if things aren't working right, you can try something new. You don't always have to stick to the same old. And always remember there's more to life than the physical. So as you're building all these great things in your life and taking the necessary steps, open yourself up a little to the intuition, because that can also guide you just as well.
Thank you for that. Let me go over to Telegram, and I noticed Kenny had a question. Kenny, you're unmuted. Please ask your question.
2 questions. Numerology, and have you calculated the end of days? And the second question would be, you do past life readings on relationship. How could you do that for me?
Sure. Okay, thank you, Kenny.
So if I'm clear on your first question, how do I calculate the end of days, like when the world's going to end? If that's what you mean, it's not really possible to calculate that. So I can't really speak to that. But in terms of the past life relationship reading, if you go to intuitiveschool.com under the readings electronically, and so we just need the full first name of you and the person that you're wanting the reading with. And what we do is you can either be live on Zoom as we do the reading, or we will just simply record the reading and send it to you as an audio file based off the first, middle, and last name of you and the other person. And there's space on the form to ask up to 7 questions. And suggestions are on the site, but we always say focus on the current life. So the past life relationship reading has 2 parts. The first part looks at the past life that the 2 people had together. And the second part of the reading looks at the two people today? Why did they come together again today? And what is their purpose? And what are the similarities between this life and the past life?
Thank you, Kathryn. Sorry, call my friend Kat, and I misspoke. I have another question from on the chat from Fab22. Okay, let's see. Have you come across during a reading some people who may show signs of not being totally of this world, meaning not human?
We have not. We have had past life readings where in the past, for example, people have had incarnations during the Atlantean or the Lemurian time period where they were not fully incarnate in a body. Some of them were just an energy form observing. And I'm pretty sure we've had some readings during that Atlantean period also where they were, half human, half animal as they were beginning to incarnate into bodies and doing experimentations. But in terms of the present people requesting readings, it's always been, humans
Oh,
in physical bodies.
I just wanted to say Bradley just commented. He was the gentleman that gave you the date of birth. He says that is frighteningly accurate. So I just thought.
Yeah, I love numerology. Good. Glad it worked for you.
So the next question that I have here is from Pauline. It says, "What about number 3 people? Thanks." Or wait, what are number 3 people like? Thanks.
Sure. So if you're talking about the number 3 life path, this is a very people-oriented person that is here to express themselves, either through art, through dance, through music, through whatever form. They're here to express their true self. And so it's a lifetime where they're going to be connected with people, relating with others, and finding out who they are through experimentation of different forms of creativity, self-expression. So they want to avoid just becoming social butterflies, where they're always interested in the social scene and the next party, and that can sometimes take them off their own path. So they can be social and have fun and also develop who they are and a form of self-expression. So very creative beings.
Good, thank you for that. Because is there something about people like that? They're sometimes not being truthful with you when you give them a reading, and it could be accurate, and they're like, "But that's not right," or something like that, or "That's nothing like me." Do you ever come across people like that?
Well, occasionally, we will get that person in the class or whatever that says, "Oh, that really doesn't describe me." They weren't being untruthful. In fact, they were telling the truth. But what I found is that we choose all our influences based on what we need to develop within ourselves. So sometimes we choose an influence that's new, right? That we've never had before in past lives. And we feel uncomfortable with it, and we haven't fully gotten into how to express ourselves through that influence. So, for example, a person who's Scorpio typically is interested in these metaphysical subjects, but occasionally get a person who's actually Scorpio but afraid of looking into metaphysics. And so what I say is, well, the description of Scorpio is not inaccurate, but what it is that you are kind of rejecting identifying with this new energy because it feels uncomfortable, because it's new, for a variety of reasons. And so the people who say, "Oh, this really doesn't apply to me," they haven't allowed themselves to move into that new energy. And the sooner they do it, the easier life will be for them.
So,
But most people that come are wanting the truth. So,
right, but that's good. That's good. I hope you don't mind. I'm sorry that the questions aren't more. There's one coming up, but a lot of them that I'm getting, or at least the ones we had so far, were just asking for like a quick numerology reading. Are you okay with that? I don't want to put you on the spot. I didn't check with you
well,
before we started. But the reason why I
that's
asked
fine.
because someone who you know very well, my significant other wants to know. Christy was saying, basically wanting to check on hers. It's 128, so January 28, 88.
1980. Okay, so Okay, so Christy would be a 1, and that's the first number in the cycle. So a 1 life path is somebody who's here to understand who they really are. It's all about self-awareness, learning independence, learning to be assertive, learning to have their own unique voice and not be afraid to speak it. If you have a different opinion than somebody else, it's okay to say it. It's about being bold and being courageous and being who you truly are, regardless of how many people may laugh at you for that or reject you for that. It's about stepping into your weirdness, right? Or flying your freak flag, right? And not caring what other people say about it. Um, Taking those courageous ideas, being an initiator, being a little bit competitive is okay. Being a leader. 1 is about leader, and 1 is about feeling okay being in the limelight, even though you might be like, oh, I don't want to be in the limelight, right? It kind of goes along with what I was just saying, that we choose the influences we need to grow as a soul. And so for some reason you chose the number 1 because you're needing to be comfortable being a leader, be comfortable being independent, standing up for yourself, being different. Knowing a little about you, I think you can kind of connect the dots and understand more about the family you chose to be born into, because it's definitely not the status quo folks, right? They're different, they're unique. So it's actually supporting you in bringing out that number 1.
Okay, thank you for that. The other question was from Fab22 asking if you can speak on this. Great. I don't know. Obviously, different questions come from different backgrounds. So this one is, what is your view on the Sumerian perspective of ancient astrology concerning the planets as being actual deities with persona and unique specific purpose, i.e., Anunnaki descriptions?
hmm Well, briefly, I would just say that I do believe that the planets do have their own personalities. And actually, in Vedic astrology, they teach that if we're having a problem in life, to have a dialogue with the planet as if it was a real person. So, for example, if I'm having a love problem, Vedic astrology would say, well, go talk to Venus, right, the planet of love, and tell her your problems, your woes, and listen for the advice. Um, the planets do exert a real energetic influence on us, and so to say that they're not real or not a influence or personality in our life, I think would be to reject the truth. So I do occasionally dialogue with the planets and ask for general guidance. And a lot of it comes down to knowing your own chart and talking through the chart about what you need and to help you get through a difficult period. Can be extremely beneficial, so that we begin to see the planets as our friends rather than our adversaries.
Thank you. The next question, and I figure I'll make it the last one because I really appreciate you spending. It's been over an hour and a half, and I thank you very much for your time. It says, can I ask the meta meaning of the playing card, the 6 of clubs? Thanks.
I really can't speak to that. I have not delved much into, I'm assuming it's tarot. So I would just look at the number 6 from a numerological aspect, which is the number of service to humanity. It's a helpful teacher, parent, guidance number. But in terms of the clubs and that combination, I really couldn't speak to that.
Well, Kathryn, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being on, and I'm glad we were able to connect. And no matter how much Mercury was in retrograde today, I'm glad everything still worked out. So,
Oh, likewise, it's been a pleasure.
So, everyone else watching, thank you for tuning in. Please check out the different websites and the intuitive school that Kathryn and Patrick are running. The links are in the description below. Check them out when you have some time. If you're in Kansas City area, if and when it opens back up, I hope you can make it in person. Otherwise, everything's available online. So do go and patron those sites when you get a chance. But yeah, Kathryn, I'm sorry, I keep I keep mixing you up with my other friend. Please hang tight. Don't hang up on me after this interview. But I just want to sign off. Everyone, thank you all very much. I appreciate you for logging in. Next week, as always, on Wednesday at 7 p.m., I'm going to have the open lines again. And there is no guest. I might maybe go into some of the into like a quick topic for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's open lines on Telegram. And as I mentioned before, the way you get Telegram is simply download the app on your phone or computer, and make sure you just search for the UFO Hub group. There's also a link in the description below. So join the group, wait for the chat, for the voice chat to start out, and then you will be able to connect with me directly, where you just simply share your stories, whatever they may be. You can expound maybe on something I've said earlier, or just skip that altogether and just share your story, whether it be ghost related, alien related, and whatnot. So it's just basically us hanging out online and just hearing different stories. Now, real quick regarding that, if you are wanting to speak to me and you are in the Telegram group, make sure you raise your hand. There's a little button that says ask to speak or something like that, and it has a little person with a raised hand. Make sure you tap on that, because if you just log into Telegram, I'm just thinking that you just want to listen, because that's an option to just listen or via voice using your phone. But if you do want to speak, and if there's several of you that want that, I adjust my time based on that. So if I have one person that raised their hand, then I give them a lot of time, maybe 10, 20, even half hour time to just simply share whatever they have to share. But if there's more in the queue, then I know, oh, okay, I got to cut it short, and then I'll move on to the next person. So just to clarify that, in case that wasn't too clear, because some of you ask if we can have somebody else. I'm like, well, I can't force people to just start speaking. They have to want to come in, log in, and then want to actually be willing to share. So anyway, just wanted to clarify that. Again, Kathryn, thank you. Everyone else watching, I appreciate it, and we'll see you next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m.